So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. Sorry, my friends. We are a nice group, but we are indeed a small group. And this is me, this is my institute, and that is the Joetic webpage. This paper is, of course, primarily made to those who have another opinion. Okay? Because so it's a bit straight. And my talk will be when science becomes disgrace, it's time for independent committee on geoethics, whatever that is. So I first have to show that science has been disgraced. And then I will tell you how the geoethic committee can work. Okay. By the way, before I start, all this presentation has been posted on ResearchGate. So you don't need to listen to it. You just go and press it, and then you have all the pictures except the last two ones. So the idea of CO2-driven global has escalated, of course, without any limit. It's an absurdity. It has become a religion, as even most people say. And it turned out to an anthropogenic global warming monster. Here the monster is. Disgracing science and geoethics. Okay? So in the 1490s, it was a big debate about Christ and Antichrist. Okay? And ego sum papa. And of course, they dressed up in the way of papa. And here we have them. I am IPCC. Ego sum IPPC. I am science itself. Ego sum doctrina. And who are those? We have Ban Ki-moon. We have all the European. We have Papa himself. We have Obama. We have Cowley, Bolin starting it, and our Palme. Those two were the big in the beginning, and we shouldn't forget. And Brundtland, Palme succeeded to seduce, so she just launched the idea. And of course, guys like Hansen, Michael, Al Gore, and Philip Jones and Ramstorff, and more of all those AGV proponents. They are all dressed in ego sum papa. But where is the message? Where is the message? We will see what this is. So, and this is important, science. We are scientists. We are fighting for science. And when science is disgraced, we are allowed to take up the sword of truth and speak up. And we have to speak up. And that's why we are here. And this group is here because you have drawn the sword of truth and you say, we don't accept these things. And the real big thing is, the real big thing is science, that science should always grow, always work, always improve, always learn, lift any little stone which there could be in order to find something new. And that's how we did until this terrible moment where we had the fall. There was no serpent, there was no apple involved. But we fell down and we started with the AGB modeling and lobbying. And lobbying, I mean, it's a product of lobbying. The models couldn't have done it if we didn't have the group of people which had really subscribed and worked with. Most of them, especially those who have sort of scientific image of them, they were not the good one, not the mediocre, the lower mediocre one and the lower one. They were picked up because they behaved so very well. They were the only way those guys could reach some place. And they happily did it. But we fell from science to anti-science. This is really, really, for me, important. And that is why geoethics have to come in. We have When Reason Sleeps, Monster Takes Wing. And this is the book I wrote about the sun and the earth. And it's quite a good book. This is Goya's illustration.
It's a good book.
Today, reason must have fallen asleep, allowing IPCC to take wings, flooding the world with monsters and science. Okay, monster took wings, the idea, and reason continued. Why are we here? Why are we here? We are trying to wake this guy. Okay? This is what it's all about. We cannot do anything, but we must try to get him finally to wake up. And that's why all of us, in all our different ways, because we all do it in different ways, but we are unified in, please, come back to us. The CO2-driven atmospheric global warming has become a relief. It's spread around like a plant or a revival moment. What is now needed is a total reformation, back to science and away from anti-science. Okay, climate reformation, and that's why we come with this independent committee on that. Began here when it was founded. It says, keep to science, but of course, always being ready to fight, because science is this, when you start with, what? You find something completely new and unexpected. This is science, but that means that you have to work and work and work, but be ready. But if the other people, they close their eyes, they say that they have found the truth, we don't need to do anything. And you come with this horrible thing. Science is settled. Science is settled. It means that science is castrated. There's nothing more to do, nothing more to give birth to. It's finished. And that is why we are in anti-science. Always anchored in observation and experiments in physics. Beware of lobbying. Stay away from those things. And never let opinion be influenced by money, promotion, and easy publication. Because if you subscribe, your paper goes into Science and Nature and all of them. But the rest of it, we have problems. We have to fight. We have to work. It doesn't matter if you write it exceptionally well. And that's, they even in Science said, the previous, it doesn't matter how good the empiric data are, we will still not publish it. And they write it. That means they admit we are anti-scientists. We are working again. And a paper like Science, how could we even have the name if you write something like that? This is very hard for us to understand. The independent committee of the ethical principle refers to nature and natural science we call that geoethics. We realize that it's violated often both in society and politics. And these are the things they are doing. But we will speak up and use the thought of truth when scientific facts, observation, evidence, and physical laws are being set aside. And that's exactly what they are doing, and that's what I'm trying to give you that. And when this is done, the geoethical principles are violated. The principles are violated when this happens. And that is the whole idea with the geoethic committee. So here we have the monster again. Okay? Doomsday is here again. Doomsday is here again. CO2 is a bad pollutant. You will be cooked. You will be flooded. You must immigrate. Malaria is spreading again. Polar bears will be gone, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. But all the things they are saying. But there it is. Ego sum papa. Woe to you, you're detestable. You represent anti-science. You ignore observation fact. You set aside physical truth. You do a lot of shameful things. You violate your ethical principle. This must be the greatest lie ever told. And here we are trying to work. And he's becoming a little smaller. still there. And we are facing natural variability. Nothing to worry about. Temperature will be less than 1 degree. CO2 is a fertilizer, not a pollutant. The globe will become greener. The sun drives climate. A new little ice age will come here due to solar variability. Sea is hardly rising at all. By that, only by this little India, I will talk more about it today. We, those two guys, represent observational physical laws and geoethical principles. Together with those are all of us stepping in the room. And lots of good scientists. It's not 97% against us. It's rather the opposite. Look, all the geologists I know don't agree with the AGB. But here you recognize this man? He just spoke before us with a book in his hand, Philip Foster. And here I am. We are trying to work with him.
You believe breathing fire?
You haven't seen me at my best.
It seems clear that also climate change is a problem and no longer left for future. The Pope himself said. But in fact, that is not the climate problem. That's not the climate problem. Doesn't exist any problem. It is all a matter about natural processes, solar, terrestrial, and electric, which we can do nothing about. Just wait for a change. And it will change, as it has always changed. And this is a part of the game. And soon will be a grand new solar minimum about this time. And that is completely against what they are claiming. So, hey, solar variability is driving our terrestrial climate. I just wrote this book, so please consult solar consult this for solar variability. You just can down approaching the new solar minimum little ice age. So, and there's so many people. This is evident from multiple studies of quite different characteristics. The phasing of sunspot cycle, the cyclic observation in North Atlantic and of North Atlantic behavior over the past millennium, cyclic pattern in cosmogenic regional climates in natural terrestrial archives, the motion of the sun with respect to the center of the Earth, the planetary spin orbit coupling, the planetary conjunction distance, and the general planetary solar terrestrial interaction. So this is what will be happening in this period of time. You cannot change it. And that is, of course, also something we should consider. So anthropogenic global warming is a weird idea, only based on models, but amplified, were enormously by lobbying. In total disagreement with observational facts and physical laws. CO2, plant fertilizer, a small to negligible temperature effect. So, during the last 55 years, CO2 rose by 80 ppm. The mean temperature rise was 0.5 plus and minus 3, but it was a fall, a rise, a fall. So it cannot. So it's only a part of it can have anything to do with AGV. At more than 50% must be the sun. Okay. If we take this, thus double it with a logarithmic, this means that 0.5. The next time double it, this and this will happen. We have 0.25, and the third time 0.125. So the maximum you can reach is here, and the anthropogenic is here somewhere, 0.3 plus or minus over. Here somewhere we are by 2001. And we have a solar minimum which is not here, so it should go down here. And of course the laws extends over this. Here, up here is the +2 magic boundary which they are sitting now in Paris discussing. That's what they are discussing. Far up here, and not in, up here we use heaven, but here is an inverted thing, it's hell up there. And they are talking about this, and we are down here. And of course, it's not strange that when we compare models and observation, the models, the mean of 102 AGV models are up here. The mean says this, and then the spread bit plus or minus 7. So 3.4 to 2.0. That's what we are discussing. And we know that it's there. And it's the Earth's surface in the troposphere. Both agree more or less. Okay? And then when we do logarithm, they will be as in the previous. You are about okay. And now, what do we say here in geoethics? There's only one thing to do: sword of truth, dividing the record in nonsense about and reality. Here is somewhere. There's somewhere. Science is always somewhere. It's only our friend here nearly asleep. He pinpointed to the direction. But up here we have the whole world, all the leaders, are here in Paris, fighting for something which is nothing. Nothing. Variaciones de la nada. It was a Ecuadorian poet which wrote a poem about variaciones de la nada, and this is a variation about nothing. Okay. Disastrous sea level change is another weird, only based on models. It's totally disagreeing with observational facts and physical law. I will talk about this 2 days ago. But look here, and this is what I will give 2 days. Observation, continued observation, and the prediction. Here is somewhere we'll have to be. But all the models, this is the models. God heavens, what are they doing? What are they doing? So what can we do? Yeah, again, the sword of truth. Sword of truth. Nonsense about and reality. But it starts to become hard to live with this. At least I find it so. But that's why we are coming here, because we think there is something here. We have to wake up this sleeping guy which I showed you before. So sea level by day is plus or minus. So it's very, very much you do about very much nothing. Now we come to an important fact, for me at least, and for geoethics. So we have science, we have the natural evolution, which is for example, here, Cuvier, where Cuvier found layering in the Paris Basin. In each layer it was more and more improved species. That was fantastic. And then Lyell came with his layering and they formed the model, and Darwin finally saw, God, it's the species evolution, and there is absolutely no doubt about it. Whatever you see, even in the genetics, it's an evolution. Then you can put in God wherever you want, but not in a moment where everything was created. So this is science, really science, and anti-science and creationism. That is great. And natural climate, it's up here. Natural. And it's down here together with creation in the anti-science box. And that's interesting. That's very, very. So there are and then we come to this one. Believing is not good enough. It must be true. This is not true. This is not true. Here. Very, very science. And we have this one. Observational facts and physical laws must rule over and invalidate simple model outputs. At least this is the case in true science. Only in anti-science can models be allowed to overrule observations, as is the case with the CO2-driven global warming scenario and sea level, as I will show. Conclusions. The models do not agree with observational fact, neither measured temperature, observed sea level. So, what do we say to this? What do we say to this? The IPCC persists in pricing their elusive models. And all the people who are gathered here in Paris continue to do this. Geoethics say, trust reality and skip models. Science says, to hell with the models. You, each one of you in the room, and all the people which should have been against us should be here. They should have to make their choice now. Where, in what box, intellectual box they would be. Here, there, or there. They are the same. But this one, then you mean you go against model, against observation, go against, you become an anti-scientist. Do you want that? No, I don't want that. So, the sun and the AGV rats, it has been getting small enough. This paper has been posted on here, so you don't need this reference. You just find them in the paper. I have some time, so I put a few additions. This was the end, but I make a few additions. So the AGV models and here are the models and the observations. Here are all the models, the other hand. It is not a matter of scientific opinions, it's a matter of purpose, deceiving and misguiding. This is what it is. This is science against anti-science. In 1524, the world was doomed to become flooded. Of course, nothing happened. At 2030 to 2001, the world is doomed again to become flooded. Nor will anything happen this time. This is how it is, and it will always be. That is just how it's going on. Sea level, I will speak at. We are scientists. We observe and record. No, sea is not at all rapidly rising. Maybe at the most 10 to 20 centimeters by 2100. But the lobbyists, they have absolutely no limit of what they are saying. We promote an idea. Yes, we want to scare up people, Hansen of course, to action. So why not 1 meter or even more by 2000? Sword of truth out again. The sword of truth cuts the nonsense exaggeration below and the science by science lobbyists. We have also something, we're trying to behave. Usually we have some goodness and wisdom which try to put limits to what we should do. And that is also in geoethics. Some people say that it's problematic to know what its ethics are. I think it's exceptionally easy because if you don't do that, you should be a little red on your cheeks. I mean, that's very, very, very simple. And goodness and wisdom, how to behave. But fundamentalism, were based on the goal justifies the means. That is a terrible thing. I mean, back to Inquisition. Inquisition, backbiting, book burning, obstruction in career, punishment, obstruction in publication, and so on. We don't like that. So again, the sword of truth. The sword of truth cuts off the terrible fundamentalistic behavior of the triangle top. We cannot accept that. So Hansen, we mentioned Hansen, okay? His prediction, this is temperature, COPE is, they are discussing here, just a straight line up. And Hansen is even far, far above it. And this is Solheim's just continuation of this. But here we know that it will be cooling from solar fixtures, and so it may be all turned down. Yes. But how could you make those type of effects? So we are back here, and observation, fact, physical laws, and here, Philip, hello, and I try to support you here, but you have the book in the hand. I have.
You can grab the book off you.
Yes. Sorry. So this is what I'm going to have been talking about. Now I add a few things which have not yet been materialized. We are going to talk about it here. The Geoethic Commission, they also want to point the finger on things which are wrong. but we have not exactly agreed how to do it. But I just give you 2 examples. They are not in the posted versions and they have not been sent yet, but that's what we are doing. So we have geoethics, this is what we say, and we welcome some people to the ICG Hall of Shame. And it's a nomination, of course, Rasmussen with the book burning, and we have a very simple statement, not going into details, and where you can find it, and we also invite them to come back with a reply, but conditioned with a reply, it must be decent, not more than 100 words, and within 14 days. It means that you can kick it out, otherwise so here's a good candidate. And we are also going to editor of Science because of what they said. So this is a way of trying to interfere with them. But as again, we have the steering committee have to agree with us. Hansen is an obvious candidate. But look here how kindly we put it. We didn't tell him what he really is. Just a wild exaggerator. We could have many other things here. And the exaggeration is here. And in sea level, God, what he's saying in sea level. He knows nothing about sea level. It's not even an amateur. The maximum amount it could be from physical laws is this. And we suppose it will end up here. But he says at 2080, suddenly it will increase by 4 meters. How do you melt ice, and where do you get the colorimetric effects? It's complete nonsense. But how could you do that? So we have to call him to the Hall of Shame. But again, please remember that this has not yet been put into materialization. It's just how we are trying to work in the independent committee, because we don't want to sit and talk. Sit and talk, people have done so much. It has to be some sort of pointing finger when they're going too far, and people have gone too far. Okay, well, that was a message. Thank you. Yes,
Niklas, can I have 3 or 4 minutes about the United Nations?
yes.
Because you mentioned Ban Ki-moon.
Yes.
So I work for the United Nations. I have even a pension from the United Nations. But I do criticize that establishment because since the last 25 years it's just impossible. I don't know whether you've ever heard of, they launched in 87, 88, 89, a decade for, it was called the International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction. And everybody called him, typical, this is a long word, and they've got the acronym, IDNDR. So they want to talk about the IDNDR. So they have invented the committee, the technical committee, the steering committee, the professional committee, the scientific committee, the administrative committee, and the disaster were everything. Earthquake, volcanism, floods, inundation, erections, that doesn't work, or whatever. I mean, anything, locust. And instead of doing something, there was a meeting of the technical committee in Calcutta, then the administrative meeting in Caracas or something, doing nothing. I was protesting. I said, I mean, in those meetings, they were repeating what they said the day before, the meeting before, doing absolutely nothing. Just suspend any meeting and do something. Okay, I arrived in 1993. There was a big meeting in Spain for the engineering seismology, about 1,500 people from USA, from Japan. Can you imagine? 45 countries or something. And then they dedicated in plenary session, there were 1,500 people. They have dedicated 2 or 3 hours in the morning for the IDNDR. And so somebody, the meeting confirmed this and that and that. And then they said, is anybody wants to say something? I got probably the fastest hand in the West. Here I am. And I said, I tell you from what I've seen, I lived the beginning of it in Rabat when they started to do the thing like that. I would like to call it IDNDN. I mean, when you launch a new acronym, everybody was curious. Can you tell me what it is? I can tell you very much. It is International Decade for Natural Disaster Masturbation. Oh, I tell you, that was a point. I have become the most famous of all the 1,500. The Japanese were, you know, when you are in a restaurant or something, Japanese, oh, thank you, sayonara, finalmente, los tipos de Sudamérica, finalmente lo hiciste, bien hecho. Everybody said something. I tell you, the problem I had from New York, from Geneva, what had you said? I mean, the UN was just collapsing. And I said, look, I would have said what I said, even if the Pope was there and the King was there. Because I didn't use any vulgar expression to use that you use vulgarly for the action of masturbation. I used the word that, you know, it is a medical term. I tell you what has happened. In I think 98 or something, the decade terminated, and voices went around that the only one who was capable, had the courage of saying what it was that Italian guy or something, because it was a masturbation. And this is what they do. The UN is masturbating at our expense, though. And this is what I don't like. So this is why I am so bloody critical. Even if I have a pension from the United Nations, I got it because I was working, slaving myself in the Solomon Islands, in Chile, up in the Andes. I mean, I slaved myself like a crazy man. So, I mean, I reckon that the United Nations is worse than the Vatican. And this is, I'm saying something, maybe you get offended, but never mind. So this is it.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful addition. And it is exactly these things what we wanted to do in the geoethics, because it was trying to find some new maybe angle, not only to sit do those things you are expressing so well, but instead pointing the fingers. But that's the only thing we can expose bad things. But in previous, there have been other geoethic groups in the world. But geoethics was immediately forgotten. They were sitting, having especially the best thing was having dinners together, the board, and talking about how important it was, sometimes getting a book out, but really to go into the matter where it has not been the case. So that's what they do. So we are trying to work with, but the only thing we can do, we are scientists. The scientists are not trained for politics, but we have to interfere with it when they slap our faces, and they do that when they don't accept observations, experiments, natural laws, and so on. And so then really, when they disgrace science, that's a slap in the face for us. And we have to stand up, and that's why we all are here. Okay.
That's okay, thank you very much.
Do I own this now?
You own that now.
Because he wanted to give it to me. I said, no, you have to say if the paper was okay.
No, I didn't say that.